The Grove Podcast.
And I was holding my sausage dog under my arm, and they're like, excusez-moi, madame, we've had like a welfare check, you're making too much noise. And I was like, William Saliba has won the fucking league.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 187 of the Grove Podcast now. Thank you for listening and I hope you're all doing very well and enjoying your summer or winter, depending on your chosen hemisphere, and enjoying it as a champion. It's a nice feeling, and every now and then you forget and then you remember and it brings a smile to your face. So hope you're all doing that. I think we're 14 days into it and I think everyone's got another, God knows how many, 300 days of this to go. So enjoy it where you can. Anyway, look, so in today's pod, we will be doing a bit of an end of season review, season awards podcast, looking back at the highs and lows of what was an incredibly stressful, incident-packed season. And joining me today are two, what I thought were two fine gentlemen of Scottish persuasion, but I found out some shocking news beforehand that one of them wasn't. So
it's in the accent, Tabs.
I've
told you before. I lived like 5 years in Scotland total. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Look, I'm going to get my Italian passport out. Yeah. So look, the accent counts for shit. But the amount of times you speak about the Scottish football and Scottish rugby. Forgive me for thinking you might be Scottish.
I was the first ever born outside the. I was made to support Scottish football and rugby. But
there we go.
Don't give me the accent, does it?
If accents meant anything. Anyway, Jamie, how are you? How are you? How are you enjoying How are you enjoying being a champion and walking around like the Ready Brett kid with a glow around your body?
That's terrible.
All right,
80s breakfast cereal adverts reference. There you go.
I mean, that's a hell of a reference, mate. I don't think I've been exuding quite that, but it has been absolutely lovely, hasn't it? And I've quite enjoyed the various. I've had an absolutely horrific week with work since the parade, but I have enjoyed that it's been the talk of every closet Arsenal fan that I can find in the company has kind of come out to celebrate with me. That's been quite nice.
Yeah, how was the parade? Because you were there last week. So how did that go?
Of course, I'm the only one. Am I the only one that was out of us?
Yeah. We were stuck in Budapest.
Well, you boys, you two both had quite horrible work. Yeah, I'm sure we'll touch on that. Unless you already did. No, you didn't. Anyway, so it was the only way that I can describe it is it wasn't a parade; it was a carnival. And I'm sure that nobody that's listening needs any introduction to that apart from the very handful of people that might have been in Budapest, because otherwise, if you had any remote linkage to the Arsenal, you were fucking there. It was absolutely insane. And it was cool, actually. I got there at a bit of a weird spot because I was, as you may well know, it's my girlfriend's birthday, which made the day a bit of a funny one.
Did she enjoy the parade as well?
She did not get involved at all, and she hated meeting in King's Cross for a meal with her and her family and stuff that weekend. So I persuaded her anyway that we would go up to London for the weekend. Actually, she was very supportive, very lovely about it all. We went up to the weekend. I did the Champions League final in the Emirates, which was phenomenal in terms of the atmosphere and awful in terms of a viewing experience. Don't ask me anything that really went on. I can't bring myself to watch the game back, and I can only remember what it's like on what's a bit like watching a portable TV from across like a garden. You know, that's basically the equivalent, right? It's not. I'm very sketchy on detail. Anyway, so that night went on. I went out to about 3 a.m. Then the next day we went for a breakfast in Hackney, and the bastards took like an hour and 20 minutes to bring out the breakfast. It was like ridiculous. It was honestly terrible. And I'm just looking at the watch the whole time, thinking I've got to get off. And in the end, the transport was so full. I ended up like walking from Hackney to anywhere I could get to the parade. So I'm just going, right, I'm just gonna rinse it. Just gonna walk it. Walk as if I'm going back to my house. I've walked from Hackney to my house before. I'll go towards my old house and I'll see if I just hit the parade, because I will. I'll have to hit the parade. And eventually I linked up with it about kind of Green Lanes, Clissold Park sort of way. And that was actually kind of ideal because getting there quite late. I think it was around about half 12 by the time I got there, and quite seriously, that was very late to be in any of the spots. I think it was Clissold Park was lovely because it was a bit more sort of it's kind of quite family-ish. There was a lot of young folks there as well, and obviously it's a massive, great big park. And then also when the bus came past, and I got an absolutely abysmal view when it first came past. I was then one of many people running through the park alongside the bus. Just to continue to get a better view as you went, whilst also simultaneously going, shit, I'm 40, I'm not good at this. But yeah, there was just this stampede of Arsenal fans just across the field. It was a bit like 28 days later. It was quite fun. So yeah, it was really good. And then afterwards, I walked the parade route backwards and met up with a few Grovers. And yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Saw some of the carnage, and yeah, and then I did 19 miles walking around it, and it was just like a carnival. The best bits for me were all the little breakouts, and this is the bits where it was really fun. It genuinely was like Notting Hill, in that like 2 side streets away from where the bus route is, there's just like a fucking rave happening outside of somebody's house with somebody on the decks. And then next door, there's a geezer renting out his toilet. And then next door to that, there's a geezer selling like curried goat. It's fucking great. It's just Notting Hill Carnival basically, but an Arsenal version. So yeah, it genuinely was. I've been to an Arsenal parade before for the cup, and I've never been at one for the league. I've been looking forward to it for years, living in Holloway, and as I've said before, I can't believe it's happened. Literally a month or 2 after leaving, but I just have never seen that part of London that I absolutely adore. In just the whole place enraptured. It didn't matter where you went; it was just one massive, great big scene. So and even if that did involve bringing a few people up that had absolutely no idea what they were even there for, but it was good fun.
Cool. No, sounds good. And also joining us today is a genuine Scottish person. No, these fake plastic ones. And Andy, how are you doing? How are you enjoying this period between the end of season and the World Cup? A sort of footballing perineum, if you like.
I've actually got a lot better things to do than sit here and listen to these.
I think that
That has got to top Ready Break, and I don't even know.
Oh dear. I mean, you were quite low following the.
Wow. Karen's a lucky lady.
I was about to say you were quite low. Don't get me started. Right, you were quite low following the Champions League final. So have you sort of gotten over that and feeling a bit better about things?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it was like kind of being at the game or whatever, but it did. It took me until about Thursday to get over that game on Saturday. I think just because it was, we had it in our hands. There was such a big opportunity there. But yeah, I think by Thursday I'd recouped the sleep that I'd lost. I'd recouped the rage I had kind of built up at Wizz Air and Ryanair and everyone in between. And yeah, it's just been nice to have a bit of a break from football. World Cup's still a week away, so it's still in that kind of
Thursday South Africa Mexico, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Yeah.
On the 11th, yeah.
So still in that kind of, what are you calling it, a perineum period? But yeah, it's funny you say about the parade, Jamie, because I didn't go to the good bit, but I got the complete dregs of it because I flew via Krakow Budapest to Krakow to Luton, and I got to Luton at like 4:30 in the morning, and then got the Luton Express or whatever it's called into town. So I got into King's Cross at about 5:30 in the morning. And it was still good. Like just walking around, like it literally was like something from 28 Days Later or something like that. Just cans everywhere. It was, so I got to say, like, I guess in part that I got to go to the parade. I didn't get any of the good bit. I didn't get the curried goat. I didn't get any of the red flares, but at least I got to see some dregs from it. But yeah,
it's interesting how different an experience it is actually, and it really didn't dawn on me until I think it was on Monday when Tabs was having so much trouble trying to get back to the UK. Just how different you guys' experience of that, the party over was going to be, really, because that was kind of the main thing I was hit by on the Monday was like, all right, cool, or a kind of maybe more Sunday night, actually, a bit of a feeling of like, cool, so that's sort of like the last party. You know, it's been like 2 weeks of non-stop fucking party if you're an Arsenal fan. And it sort of was like this, okay, cool. That's really nice. That's a nice way. Champions League final was sort of erased from the memory. You just went, this day that we've just had, this big, you know, fuck off carnival is the way of saying goodbye to this season. Obviously it's not, because this podcast is, but it really did sort of hit in that way. And obviously I then sort of thought it was only really when looking, I was like, oh shit, yeah, no, it's not for these boys, is it? They're left with the memory of the shit at the very end of a long night in Budapest and then horrible flights home. And I was like, oh shit, that's a bit harsh.
Watching from afar, I was tuning in and seeing photos and all the rest of it. And actually, it did cheer me up. And I'm going to get into the shit show that I had over the weekend. But it did sort of cheer me up, and it was easy to sort of like forget about it. And then also, you know, I'm dealing with so much bloody admin that you forget about the stuff. And in a way, losing the Champions League the way we did, it was sort of, it was more of a low and a bit of a sign, and it's a shame and all the rest of it. But I think because we'd won the league and because we were proud of everyone and all the rest of it, yes, the deep low. But I think it was very easy because of everything we saw, because of that, the way the players were reacting. I think it was quite easy to sort of get over that sort of relatively quickly. And if you don't think about it too much, you know, it's not too bad. There are moments you think, oh God, you know, when's our next chance going to be, sort of thing. You know, because its progression isn't always linear like it has been. So we'll see. But you know, I think that really helped. And I mean, I was fortunate enough to be, you know, up in London for the final game of the season on the Sunday, so I had my bit up at the Emirates for that. Budapest, despite the result, was an amazing weekend, and despite all the admin we had, I mean, I was there with you, Andy, and stuff like that, and it was great fun, and to see everyone and the whole experience, to be there, the fan part, the setup in Budapest. So I think I often find a lot of the times with these trips, okay, this was more significant, but the trip and what you do there and the fun that you have, the result is not, it's sort of secondary sometimes. You know, if you were to lose, you know, if to lose or draw, like one of the league phase games or whatever, you're not so worried because, hey, you've had a good weekend with a bunch of mates, sort of thing. So this was just maybe a bit more of an extreme version of that. But I mean, I must admit this week, you know, we had the extreme highs of May, and I think we were all living off adrenaline for a few weeks. And actually this week, I think I crashed. You know, my mood has actually been really, really low. I've been knackered. I think I've got a bit ill, and I had to deal with the aftermath of the shit show that was Budapest from a travelling perspective. And now, you know, I've also had, like, you know, the latest being I've had physio appointments this week, and I'm still not able to walk properly after falling over on my Sunday morning run in Budapest. Austrian Air are not paying up any compensation because apparently the weather was the issue. Why I missed my connection and then missed my subsequent flight and then had to stay a night in Vienna. And the icing on the cake is, and you're going to love this, is that the host of the accommodation in Budapest that I had to book on Friday afternoon because the original accommodation turned out to be a crack den. They're harassing me and threatening me because I left a very mild, unfavourable review about an uncomfortable sofa bed. Now, let me read you point number 9 from their message on booking.com. If you do not apologise to us, and the government authorities will be forced to protect our reputation, we will forward all claims to the state regulatory authorities, the police, NTAC, the Migration Service, and the British Consulate in Budapest. We will submit documents for the initiation of administrative and criminal proceedings in connection with numerous violations of Hungarian law. We will submit a request to the Migration Service to ban entry to the Schengen area due to violations and attempts to provide incorrect information for registration with NTAC. Thank you for understanding. Now, the NTAC thing is Did
you get an Airbnb off Viktor Orban? What the hell is going on here, man?
This is booking.com, right? No, the NTAC thing is basically every person has to register their details if they're staying as a tourist in Budapest. And I think only passport will do. But some places don't ask for it. Some places accept driving license, whatever. So I submitted our driving licenses and they said, oh, we don't accept driving. Oh, so sorry. And I sent my passport. So they're basically thinking I was trying to circumvent the process by sending fake information. And I sent, and then So I've complained to Booking.com, obviously, and said, hang on, I'm getting harassed here. And literally all I said was, excellent location, really uncomfortable sofa bed in a tiny room with a fridge in it. That was it. 4 stars, out of 10. And then I complain, and then look, I must admit,
4 stars out of 10.
Yeah, I was in a bad mood. All right, we're just on the Champions League final, and I'm fucking stuck in Austria. And don't get me started on trying to deal with these chatbots at Austrian and Lufthansa who wanted me to talk to Nectar points to get. Oh yeah, that's the long story. Anyway, and then they come back. Good. They good. Right. Lufthansa said, oh, you need to talk to Miles and More, which is their reward scheme. It's like British Airways saying, oh, you got an issue with your flight? Go and talk to Avios. So what? Anyway, so they come back after I go, good evening. You continue to provide false information and escalate the situation. Our legal team has prepared documents to reopen the administrative and criminal cases against you. We will seek compensation for financial and legal damages for each hour your false review remains publicly accessible. We recommend you contact an attorney.
Do you know what this is, Tabs? That is 100% somebody's paid £20 a month for their ChatGPT subscription, and they are getting every cent of value out of it, because that is not a normal human response.
No, it's ridiculous. But the thing is, they're just going to get banned from Booking.com because none of this is viable. But it's just nonsense. It's like, initially you look at it, oh shit, and then you look, and then, hang on, what the fuck? And this, to get me banned from the Schengen area. So yes, I'm having to deal with that. Physios, Austrian Air, fuck me. But you know what? I loved every minute of Budapest, and I'll do it all over again. Anyway.
Imagine what you'd be getting if you gave them a 1-star review. That's 4.
Jesus Christ, that hilarious. This is ridiculous. But there we go. Anyway, so we're 18 minutes in, and we haven't even touched a single thing about Arsenal winning the league. But there we go. Anyway, so on to the review and awards. And Jamie, generally, how did you feel about this season, and what do you think it means for next season?
I mean, it's nice and an open one. It was fucking incredible, wasn't it? It's a solid 9.5 out of 10 season, with the 0.5 to come from if we'd have won that final. I mean, if you look back at a season where we win the league for the first time in 22 years, we make it to the final of the League Cup, make it to the final of the Champions League, 2 of the competitions that you're in to win, and the quarterfinal of another, then it's very hard to not look back at that as being, one of Arsenal's most successful seasons in the history of the club. And the key thing being, it's just kind of mission accomplished for this Arsenal, isn't it? So, yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Delighted. And the funny thing about it is, and maybe we might touch on little bits that kind of around this. The only thing I will say is I think it's the least fun season under Mikel Arteta, actually. I've kind of reflected on this post-season. I think it has just been because it's been that knocking on the door and the feeling that this is the one where we absolutely must get over the line and not feeling like an underdog, and also how quickly into the season it looked like. I think it was about 6-7 weeks in where it looked like, oh no, hang on a minute, Liverpool aren't going to be there. They don't look good enough. City, all right, but they're we should do them. It looked very early on in this season. It looked like we should be winning it, and very early on in this season, it was the consensus pick for everybody that we were going to win it, and that made it a lot less fun. For whatever reason, and it is a bit weird to the extent that I think I had most of my fun in the Champions League a lot of the time. I think that was a huge source of my fun this season. So that's the only comment I'll say. Like, it was absolutely 9.5 season, outcome brilliant, moments in it in every competition that were great in some respects, but fun wise, I think it was probably like a solid 6 or 7, with like fucking most of those points coming in the last month. Which is weird to say, but that's how I feel about it.
Andy?
Pretty similar, to be honest. I was kind of like when you were sent the questions through a little bit of in advance because you gave us some homework. I was sitting kind of reflecting on it, and I was like, I don't know how much I enjoyed it. Like, it's a mental thing to say when you've just won the Premier League, but I mean, it is genuinely, it, it's genuinely brilliant to have got over the line and finally won the league. But I think that's kind of why, like, I've been feeling like you were saying, Tabs, like kind of so low and so flat over the past week because it has just been this kind of 9 months of stress. Every 3 days, it's been another game, because we went so deep in basically every single competition, apart from the FA Cup. It's just felt like this relentless kind of treadmill of just needing to get over the line, and then the pressure building from the media. And I know we've discussed that kind of a couple of times, but I think it has as kind of as almost difficult it has been getting over the line this season. I'm almost equally like as excited about what next season and the next kind of 5 to hopefully fingers crossed 10 years can bring, because this season was a season kind of built on set pieces, defensive pragmatism. Yeah, not the prettiest football, but I think Arteta and the club, after kind of what was it, 3 seasons of finishing second, were kind of they were very much put on that pedestal of you need to win now, and there was no room for nuance. There was no room for any sort of analysis along the way. It was very much win, or potentially you're looking at your job for the media, but also for sections of our fan base. And I think now for that kind of pressure has just almost gone overnight. You've seen the kind of reaction on the streets of London or even in Budapest. Everyone was just so happy over in Budapest, and I think that was reflected in what I've seen over from the videos in the parade. And it feels like for the first time in probably 20 years, we kind of almost feel liberated. We don't we almost don't have to go into next season and do something. And I think because of that, we will. And you've got kind of all the other dynamics playing into it. The fact that you're a champion means you can act differently in the transfer market. And when you look at, and I know that's not kind of the kind of point of today's podcast, but when you look at all the other clubs and the positions that they're in, it really is an incredibly, incredibly exciting time to be a part of this football club. So yeah, overall, incredibly, incredibly positive season, but I just don't want to do it again. I'd happily take the win again, but it was, yeah, that was some of those weeks, like coming away from Wolves, coming away from Bournemouth, were absolutely brutal.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, this time, yeah, the journey was quite tough, but at least the destination justifies the journey, I guess. But no, I like your point, and I think you're right, Jamie. The pressure was off the Champions League, partly because of the style of play. You're not coming against the low blocks like we do here, or the style of play, and it's a bit more open and stuff like that. And I think we played with the freedom. It just felt a bit. It felt a bit easier, and the draw also fell our way, so the games weren't as tough. And as we know, the Premier League. Look how many teams have qualified for Europe. Look how many teams were in the Champions League. So what you're facing week in, week out in the Premier League is just far harder than you do in the Champions League. Yeah, no, you're right. The resounding thing. It was brilliant first half of the season, and then it was a slog for the second half, and it was just like. Just the angst of getting over the line, and it wasn't helped by the way we were playing, wasn't helped by injuries. So yeah, the residing memory is like the angst, but we did it. So then it's relief. It's relief and then joy at what we did. Type things. I think the initial thing is just like, oh, thank God we've done it. That's it. We can all this shit beforehand. Yeah, and I think we said it on previous pods. This league win is not the 25-26 season. It's like the 23-26. It's taken us this to get there. But I think we were ultimately the best team. I think the end of the result showed who we were versus who City were, showed up who Man United were. So actually, yeah, as I say, the league doesn't lie. And you look at that top five, it exactly represented who these teams were this season. And we just happened to be the best team. We just made harder work of it than potentially we needed to, but that's not surprising given the psychology, given the fitness, given the tournaments we were in and stuff like that. So I think what it means for next season is the one thing I'm thinking, we're not going to shit the bed every time we maybe get a bad result. Because sometimes bad results happen. And everyone this season is so stressed that any time any points were dropped, it's like, it was just an existential crisis. It's like everyone's throwing toys out of the pram and everything. Next season, we've sort of got the comfort that we're champions. Now we want to do it again, but if we don't, well, at least we've done it then and all the rest of it and whatever the reasons are. And every result is important, but at the same time, not fatal. And I think every time you mentioned Wolves, you mentioned Villa, mentioned Bournemouth, even City, they weren't fatal, but you obviously are other people. Yeah, so I think this will just give us a bit of freedom for next season in terms of the fan base and the players. So that's where I'm with that. So okay, let's get on with the awards then. Starting off with player of the season, Jamie, who is your player of the season?
A really tough one, really tough one. I was torn between two in particular. I won't say the other one, but I honestly was like, I think I'm going to make the call right now because this is the only one where I couldn't really score between them. I think on the balance of absolutely everything, I am going Declan Rice. I think just the leadership that he showed was probably the main thing. I think at times in the season where it really was needed. I think we've had I don't know how many times I've watched a reel or seen a T-shirt, or God knows how many people at the parade are T-shirts and banners of the "It's not done," or alternatively, conversely, "It's now done." Kind of variety. Yeah. And I just thought, I thought also as well throughout the season, his technical ability is absolutely outstanding, right? But he really showed he has the confidence at this stage as a footballer to show that, to use his technical ability a lot of the time, to occasionally get himself in trouble, and then has the mentality to be able to have that confidence in the first place, but then also to be able to power on through when the going gets tough, and in particular when he's put himself in that tough position. For me it was Declan. I think it was a Declan Rice season, I think, is probably the way that I would put it. That sort of relentlessness that player has, a mixture of relentlessness and quality. That's what we did as a club, and for me, he was the one that exemplified it, and therefore, he's the one for me.
I think that's really, see the point about Declan Rice's technical ability and confidence. I think that's an incredibly exciting thing for me moving forward, because I have always kind of felt a bit uncomfortable with Declan Rice in that left 8 position. But then when we first seen him in the 6 coming in, he wasn't quite knitting it together. And it's almost like either luck or a stroke of genius. By playing him in that left 8 position for long enough, he's got the chance and the time to build up that technical skill. So now I think we can be a lot more comfortable dropping him slightly deeper. Not in every game, but I think in the majority of games, especially the ones we play at home against kind of the kind of bottom 14, maybe 15 sides. But yeah, I think it's a great show.
I think it's a good point, and I think he's actually, I would add to that and say, I think this season he became less of a left 8 than he was last season, and less of a 6 that he was prior to that, and he became a much more kind of positionless midfielder and driving force within the midfield. And I think also as well, him and Zubi's relationship is a lot more give and go, a bit more Vieira Petit, if you like, than we necessarily have seen with previous kind of very distinct. We have a pivot player and then we have a left 8 and then we have, kind of quite a bit of structure potentially. I think that there's a lot less structure actually in Declan Rice and Zubimendi versus the others, which I think has been kind of interesting as well. And again, might speak to both Declan's qualities and also Zubi's qualities as well. Maybe they, it helps that the two of them can dovetail quite so well.
Yeah, indeed. Andy, who was your player of the season?
So similar to Jamie, I kind of went between one of two players. And to be honest, I think my number one is the one that I'm gonna kind of be actually able to talk about, because I think it just about put Declan Rice as number 2. I think my number one genuinely is William Saliba.
Okay.
Well, I just think he's
interesting.
I
didn't have that one down.
Yeah, I just think, and I think this is the kind of point. I think he's almost penalised by like how consistently good he is. Like, he's so effortless and he makes the game look so easy. And I think because of that, your eye isn't really drawn to him. But like the minute that he's not there, and we've seen that in like the 22-23 season, as soon as he got injured against Sporting Lisbon, he came out the team and we dropped 10-15 yards. He's almost like, especially at home against the kind of lower, or the kind of, lower teams, he starts a lot of our attacks. I think he just exudes this confidence from centre back, and he's like almost, he's called this like Rolls Royce of a footballer, but I think like, and I get the kind of the reasons for why he might be called that, but I don't know. Whenever I see like a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini in the street, you kind of turn your head and you look at it. But like, I think he's almost like he goes by. He's like quietly unnoticed, and for me, he doesn't get the plaudits. He does get plaudits, but I just think he's up there. He's one of our top three best footballers. In
So
this
you're saying he's like an electric bus, like the London electric buses, where it's so quiet you don't hear it, but then if you don't notice it, it will go fucking through you. Yeah.
like air conditioning or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Where like,
Sorry, you've got tabs all of a sudden now. Air conditioning.
No. I think it's because he
breaks. Then if the air conditioning breaks, you notice it, and it's like, oh, shit, what in here? What the hell's going on? But it's just quietly on in the background, making you feel comfortable, making you feel confident. And I think for that, it's just, it's kind of like the minute he stops working, I think we would. I don't think we would. I don't think we would have won the league. We couldn't have played the way we played in a lot of games, and I think
it's because
of that. For me, he needs to be recognised, and for me, he's the player of the season.
No, that's fine. I think it's because he doesn't do anything spectacular. So again, it's not like Rice because he's everywhere and what he does and then his sort of leadership on the pitch. Not like Gabriel with his headers, and he's just more demonstrative. He's just there. But another podcast like this calls about tent poles, and he's one of our tent poles. You take him away, and we could we could potentially collapse. So no, it's a good shout. I wasn't expecting it because I was expecting my one coming there. But again, I think because of there's a few people very easily could have it. So like, you'd have Rice, obviously Gabriel with his goals at the beginning of the season and the way he is and just the way he is as a defender. I mean, him and Saliba together, just amazing. I think Timber was everyone was talking about player of the season. The first half of the season, he was just so good defensively, going forward. And stuff like that. So I think and I put down here honourable mention as well for Saliba. But for my shout, and last year I remember I went left field, so I went Marino last year, and I remember Jamie going what, but purely because of his efforts. But for me, it's very simple. It's David Raya. I think for me, he's the one. That
was my other one.
I thought it wasn't, and I'm glad you went for Rice. And I thought you might like go for Rice because I think you got a more of a connection, like sort of with him and stuff like that. But for me, he's the one player in our team that we cannot replace. Properly. Every other player outfield we can sort of replace. If he's not playing, that's fine. You take David Ray out of this team, and we saw in the Carabao Cup final, we don't have an option to cover him, and it's a massive drop off in quality. And also how we play. It's also how we play. I mean, he's brilliant in goal, and we will get to save of the season. But he's so, and I've said this before, he's so fundamental how we play. He dictates our tempo often. We go long, we go short, we go wide. He enables us to play a high line, and that triangle of him, Saliba and Gabriel just is a great foundation, a great base, and where we trigger our attacks, start our offensive play when we're in possession from the back. 3 Golden Gloves in 3 years. I think it was 19 clean sheets in 37 Premier League appearances. 9 clean sheets in 14 Champions League appearances. And I think he's finally going to be Spain's number one. I'm not too sure, but I read somewhere that he might even be, Simon's for some reason Spain's number one. But
the boss has basically said about 2 days ago. No,
is it Simon still?
Pretty much, yeah. He's got Garcia's great. Ray is incredible. He's talked about as being the best goalkeeper in the world. Everybody in England loves him, but he just went, but Unai Simon's just really good. So what are you gonna do?
Okay, he must be because he's never. But for me, Ray, I think, it's just because of what he did, what he offers, and I think without him, we don't win the league. I think we can potentially win the league without any of the other players to supplement them, but without him, we don't win this league. So there we are. But again, I think this year there was 3-4 standout candidates, and we
I think
mentioned
he's the
them here.
purest choice for me, Raya, in terms of just the number of massive performances allied to the consistency. Like if you kind of go, the consistency is right up. He's been here all season, and then his peaks have been frequent enough. He's been game-changingly difference making. So yeah, I love the shout.
Okay, so Andy, and this is slightly different because, we have who we thought was the best player, but who's been your favourite player of the season? Who have you enjoyed watching this season, or just your favourite player within the squad, within the team?
For this season, it's Leandro Trossard. Just because of I think one of the things we struggle with in the team is having those moments players, and I don't think Trossard quite meets the definition of moments players, but I think for the moments he has kind of given us this season, if that makes sense, he doesn't almost give us enough of them, but I think the goal away at Sunderland, obviously West Ham, he's just for what he came in as kind of almost a second, potentially third choice a few years ago, 20 million. The value for money that we've got out of that player has just been phenomenal. And if this is to be his last season, then I think it's just been a brilliant season for him to go out on. Just the way he knits the ball, I love the way he comes inside. His technical abilities is off the charts. And I think without that goal at West Ham, I don't necessarily think we're sitting here with that Premier League trophy to the right of the screen tab. So for me it was a kind of toss up between Saliba or Trossard, but I think just for that, the emotional connection I seem to have to Leo Trossard, I think he's my favourite.
Would you keep him for next season?
I would, 100%. Yeah. I think he's kind of that age where he's potentially not going to. He's not going to upset the dressing room having a secondary role, but I mean, we've all seen since he's joined the club, there's nothing better than a Trossard with something to prove, and almost that angry Trossard. If we do bring in a starting left winger, which I think we have to, I think having Trossard keeping that left winger honest week in week out would be an incredibly great place for the squad to be, because he's not a player who's relied on pace. He's always relied on his kind of jinking in and out. He's not slow, but he's always relied on his technical ability more than his ability to stretch games. And I didn't necessarily see any of that falling away. So if we do give him another extension, maybe even another little pay rise, I would be absolutely more than behind that.
Cool, very good. Jamie, your favourite player of the season?
This is definitely the one I think where it could have gone to so many players. It's unreal. As a 5 goals against Spurs in his first season is pretty hard to get away from. As the season progressed, there were different players too. Jock suddenly became, a favourite player, just to see him, actually doing what I wanted to see him doing, running channels.
The worm
and
has
stuff.
turned.
I know. Hey, look, I'll still talk about his attributes not being what I want, but
I know.
I told you, he became my Kevin Campbell, and I'm
He's
delighted about that. He's a Kevin Campbell, and I'm happy. Loads of other guys, but I think where I actually sort of landed on, and this is a bit more of I've probably fudged the category a little bit to talk about a player that I think deserves a mention for the season and won't come into any other category. And that's, and genuinely, I've loved watching Max Dowman. I think like everybody, I think there were times in the season where we needed a little bit of a lift of a complete innocent in the team a little bit, someone who he's not affected by a big price tag having come in. He's not affected by a seasons of disappointment previously. However you view those seasons, I viewed them all positively. There's still that kind of baggage. That kind of, this is the season, you've got to do it. This is the year you get over the line. Just a complete and utter, oh look, it's another hopeful at a Hale End, and he just happens to be the youngest player in the Premier League ever, and now he's the youngest goal scorer in the Premier League ever, and he's the youngest Champions League player ever, and he just happens to be really fucking good, and so I think that's going to go for my favourite player in terms of just loving those moments and just watching it kind of completely and utterly, kind of a bit of a joy of football about it. I think I'm going to give it to Max.
He's right. You pay your money for, isn't he? He's that unbelievable. Like he just passes the eye test at absolutely at every hurdle. And just quickly, Tabs, I think it's underrated the influence he had on that Everton game. Everyone looks to the goal that he scored when that breakaway goal. We were 0-0 until like the 87th, 88th.
Yeah, and he crossed it he crossed it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a completely an absolutely phenomenal talent. But where would we have been if we maybe didn't go over the line against Everton? We drew 0-0 against them last season. It could have went that way again. We weren't looking too good in that game. He obviously gets the runaway breakaway goal. But yeah, it was only when I was watching kind of highlights back last week, I was like, geez, we were kind of in the shit a bit there until Max Dowman came on, started jinking in and out, and then played that back post cross. So yeah, I just cannot wait to see him over the next few seasons. I think he's gonna take us to new levels.
No, indeed, and look, he could appear in either goal of the season or moment of the season as well. So yeah, he did factor in that, and I think everyone's contributed in their own way. Be it one goal, like Martinelli only scored one goal this season, but it was equalised against City in the 91st minute or whatever it was. So you know, everyone who's been in the team's contributed one way or another. So it's and that's the sign of a good team. For favourite player, it's really hard because I love them all. Yeah, and we're actually in this nice position, or this lovely bit that every player has got a redeeming feature. There's something about them that you know, or most of them anyway, that you have an affinity to and you're happy for, and stuff like that. Like, I've got honourable mentions for Saliba because the way he celebrates every goal, and he just looks like he loses control of his body, and the way he celebrates, he's our equivalent of not less. Okay. Rio Ferdinand. He's our cricketer who happened to be always first on the scene in the celebrations, leaping on the guy's shoulder. And Saliba's always there, like waving his arms around, like one of those blow up things outside a car sales room sort of thing. And also Calafiori, because of just the way he is and he's everywhere, and the way he plays, and what a difference he makes. Hincapié, because he's like an absolute monster, just like a breath of fresh air. But I went down the nice guy route, and it was either Rice or Eza. And I'm going to go for the favourite player because of his goals against Tottenham. Is my favourite player is Eza. 5 goals in your debut season against Tottenham. The way he's just the smile, the joy that he brings, just his just casualness about.
In fact, he could be sold tomorrow, and he just goes down as an absolute legend for those 2 games, doesn't he? That's kind of the thing. It's just
exactly, and just the way he's off the pitch, on the pitch, and no, I think for me he's like just that. He's a sort of favourite of mine. But yeah, there's loads of choices as well. You could bring in Rice and. The way he was on the parade last week and all the rest of it. So no, I'm going with Eza as my favourite player. Okay, so signing of the season that isn't Norgard, who I'd completely forgot about. Jamie, who's your signing of the season who isn't Norgard, obviously,
and not Kepa either. No.
Forgot. Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm reminding me.
Had you forgotten him as well?
I
confidently said before. So before the podcast, Tabs confidently told us that Arsenal made 5 signings. Yeah. I'll be honest. I'm looking at a list of players that I put down. There's more than 5 on there in terms of my nominees, I think. No, in all seriousness, you're kind of picking from 4 here, and it's really hard to say which one of them it is, because I genuinely agonised over this because I just thought, oh, that contribution and that contribution and that contribution, and I think I'm struck between 2 in particular. Vibes wise, there's the Eze stuff. Hincapié, in terms of his overall quality, I think he'll be an Arsenal player for a good few years. I think he's absolutely superb. But for me, it was between Zubimendi and Gyökeres, and it would be so easy to say Zubimendi because I think that first half of the season I absolutely loved him. I was really looking forward to signing him, and he actually exceeded my expectations. He did more in control of the ball than I thought he necessarily was going to. He's less metronomic than I thought he was going to be. But I think it's Yok for me, because as I say, it would be easy to go with some of these other players that fit more of what I think I want to see at the Arsenal, and ignore the fact that the lad came in and scored 20 odd goals.
21. Yeah, 21 goals, 3 assists,
which is great. He came in and he did what he needed to, and then the impact towards the end of the season I thought was really significant. Seeing him in those couple of games against Atletico we talked about. There were a bunch of league games around that time as well. Just generally sort of leading the line, running the channels, and being exactly what we needed. A real at that sort of dogged part of the season, he was an absolute whippet, right? He was running his arse off, got quite a few important goals, and
Well,
had some really big moments.
He's a 1 in 2. He played 55 games, started 40.
Yeah.
So his goals per 90 is 0.54. So as a striker, 1 in 2, that's a pretty good turnaround. And we said he struggled and yeah, look, we honestly know, like, there are technical deficiencies there, but I think it grew into it. He found his rhythm. He found his place in the team, and but we saw what role he's playing in the team as soon as Havertz became fit. And this is it, and this is it. But you get 21 goals in your first season. That's pretty good going, I'd suggest.
Yeah, and I think once players trusted him a bit more, and you saw it with Saka. I think early on their relationship was not particularly great. A lot of people made a big deal out of the Saka obviously doesn't rate him or whatever. I think that's kind of
there was that one. There was the one incident against Chelsea where he could have crossed it, but then you look at the goal against Fulham.
Exactly. I'm not the biggest fan of that, of kind of saying that per se. I think they just didn't have a relationship developed, and he did develop enough relationships as the season went on that he was able to get to a point where I think he was having a lot more of an impact. So yeah, for me, it's going to be Yok. He might be, and I think he will have the shortest tenure at the Arsenal of those players that I've mentioned. I think he's probably 2 to 3 seasons at the Arsenal. I don't think he's long here.
Well, he's 27, so yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. And I think he's here to do a particular job for a few years, and then we'll kind of move on. But I think his contributions this season have been fantastic. He's absolutely there now as being a favourite player of mine for a number of reasons, and I'm delighted that we signed him.
And I think just on that, he's almost I've seen a few, yeah, to the extent that you should read Twitter, but he's almost being like denigrated for being a flat track bully, and you're kind of like, that's kind of exactly what we need. We always we did struggle to beat up the small teams at home sometimes, like historically, and he's came in, he scored against Leeds, he scored against like Fulham, got us over the line there. So yeah, I found that a really odd criticism to have of a player, that he only scores against the small teams, and it's like, well, most of the games we play are against smaller clubs, and if he can help us get it fine, then brilliant.
Yeah, no, exactly. We scored against Everton twice, home and away, and stuff like that. So yeah, and it said 21 goals across the whole season. Important ones in Europe. He can take a fucking penalty, and he's not mine. He's not my signing of the season, but there we go. So Andy, who's your signing of the season?
Yeah, similarly, it wasn't mine either. I think just because, so I kind of, there was 3 in my head. Jamie's mentioned 2. Well, he's mentioned who will eventually be my signing overall, and the kind of way I thought it through, I was like, who's been good throughout the whole season? I feel like Zubimendi had a very good first 6, like basically up until Christmas, and any slight, like the physicality of the league just kind of caught up with him. York struggled at the start, albeit because Havertz wasn't there to kind of play that dovetaily role with him. But then in 2020, if the question was like signing, and he came in January and played that way, it would have been 100% been Gyökeres, because he's been brilliant in 2026. But I think from throughout the season, whenever he's came into the team, he's kind of just improved, and for that reason, it's Piero Hincapié for me. I think left back, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say left back's been a position we've struggled in, but it's never necessarily instilled with a huge amount of confidence. Apart from that kind of first 6 months when Zinchenko came in, but kind of when the league found him out, he then became the target for a lot of teams, and that clipped ball in behind.
And also, he didn't play left back.
Well, yeah, he was like on the sheet, but yeah. But then you kind of go Tierney, Kivior was there for various bits and bobs, and Calafiore's come in and been great, but isn't always available. So it's kind of like, are we getting him this week? Are we getting him not? Like, I was kind of, a bit. I didn't quite know how to feel about the news that came out from Arteta that Calafiore wasn't available for the Champions League final, because
I don't know where he got injured, because he played against Palace, but it didn't look like anything happened there. So that was an odd one.
Exactly.
I mean, he would have been break glass in case of emergency type stuff, which we almost did, because Hincapié was fucked in the last 10 minutes of the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. But I think in terms of like I think across the whole season for kind of building into his game, he's not. He's certainly not Calafiori on the ball. He's probably average, slightly above average on the ball, but everything he gives you, defending 1-on-1, just that kind of raw, like almost like dogged nature, that he brings to the team. His commitment is he never. Even against Dewey in that first like 80, 90 minutes until his legs began to break down, I just wasn't worried on Saturday night. And Dewey's one of those electric players, can take you either way. He's kind of almost like a Neymar regen, and I think for a player to come in and instill that much confidence in what was already an elite defensive kind of unit, like he's obviously on loan, will make that position permanent, that signing permanent, and I can see him. Yeah, I can see him at this club for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was really surprised when we did it because we think, oh, look, MLS is in that place. You've got Calafiori. Why do we need another left back? And well, thank God we did have him. And he's got that one thing. So everything he said, right, just the one thing, just his attitude. And he could be shit, and his attitude would make him a fan favorite. Just because, not that we want eventually people would tire that, but he just keeps going. He's a monster, and he's just his aggressiveness and stuff like that. Just that thing that people like effort. People like effort, and he gets the crowd going and stuff like that. And I just love that real sort of as a cliche, that South Americanness about him. Type stuff. But he's not dirty. He's not overly aggressive. So he's still in control. But he'll just go and go and go and go and go and up and down. And there's been times like he's been in the 89th minute and he's still charging up the left wing and all the rest of it, and you love that. So yeah, I'm a big favourite of his. For me, and this will also time with another. For me, I would say signing of the season is Mosquera. I was toying between this and Zubi, because Zubi's first half of the season, he was so important to why we were where we were in the first half of the season. He just fatigued out, and so he didn't have that consistency over the season. I think maybe Mosquera, the reason I'm going signing of the season is because he cost 10 million. And from the moment he came on away at Anfield, and granted, he's no William Saliba, but he sort of slotted in no problem. He didn't really look out of place, and and this is for a young guy, and all the rest of it. And I think he's just been really good and been invaluable to us this season. Like with the injuries we've had at right back, he's filled in for Saliba when he's been out. And look, what happened in the Champions League? Happened in the Champions League. That could happen to any of our defenders. They've all lunged in at some point and seen a mistake. And just because he's so young, just stepped in. I don't think he was expecting to do what he did. I think he played, was it 20? Played about 21 games. Where is he now? I've lost him now. Yeah, he played 35 matches, 20 starts. 2,000 minutes. So that's pretty good for a 21-year-old, and meant to be like a backup to a backup type stuff. So no, for me, I think how much we paid and the importance he's been to us, I think he's been a really good signing for us. And yeah, but
it's a proper championship manager pick that. Yeah, we signed him for 10 million and we can flog him for 30, 40. Like that's sort of.
But we're not going to be flogging him. He's with us for a while, I reckon, because of what his versatility and what he can offer us down there. If we get a right back over the summer, we get a backup for Gabriel, then he doesn't have to maybe cover so much. So and now we can trust him. He comes in. If he comes into the team, yes, he's no Saliba. You put him in at right back, yes, he's no Timber, but no one's going, oh shit. It's like, okay, no, trust him to do a job. And that's the thing, when you got your your secondary players coming in and you trust them, that's what you need from these players, so on. So there we go. So that's signing of the season. Let's make this one a quick one. Who's disappointed you the most this season? And that's a hard one to call, given 2 finals and a champions, but Premier League champions. But yeah, who's disappointed you this season, Jamie?
Ethan Wanieri. Unfortunately, I think I really hoped. I actually thought that he might well spend, and I did think, whilst thinking about this question, what were my expectations at the start of the season for certain players. Like, I expected a little bit of regression for MLS, for instance. I thought we might see him play less. I thought we might see him I did actually hope that we might see him go into midfield. If you remember, that was one of my kind of hopes over the, I think at the end of last season. But I think with Ethan, I thought it was a really high chance to go out on loan all year, and I thought we could be the making of him. That was sort of where my expectations were sat. I thought I don't see him playing a huge part for us. I think when he does play for us, though, we should be able to expect that if we do need him, we call upon him, and he does what Max, on the other hand, did when he came in at times, and he has an impact. He didn't really get many of those opportunities for us this season. When he did have any, he didn't really do a great deal, but they were very limited. I think it was like 3 appearances or so before Crimbo. And then ultimately, when he got the Marseille gig, I thought, well, great, this feels like a really good fit for him. And I know that a lot that has happened at Marseille, I know it's obviously the change in manager would have been massive in terms of that impact on him. But I think nonetheless, you kind of hope, and some of the messaging that's been coming out of Marseille from the new manager around, kind of is it his attitude that he doesn't like about him, he's not getting the right vibes with him, whatever. That might be entirely the manager. My thing is just, I want to see his talent push through and say, you have to pick me. I'm better than who else you've got. Put me in the team. And that didn't happen. And I think that's a bit of a shame for him, because I think the Ethan Nwaneri we were seeing at times last season felt like somebody that if you stuck him in League One was going to be able to have a really big impact, a really positive impact. And yeah, I struggle to accept that unfortunately he's had a season that is a very clear regression and puts his future at the Arsenal now in a little bit of doubt, because you look at where he could fit into the squad and you can't really see where he is.
Well, I think Max Dowman's the reason why we might sell him this summer, because of the two, you're keeping Max Dowman, and if Ethan wants to play more central, even if he plays wide, Max can do both faster. Okay, Ethan is. If something shock happens, like we sell Odegaard, then you keep Ethan. But if he goes, it's squad depth. Well, we've got that there, and his pure profit, as they say, and sometimes we have to get, and we'll discuss this in another pods to come. But no, he had 12 appearances, I think 4 starts.
You play that much? See, that's
I didn't realize that, but I think
that's almost sort of worse. Do you know what I mean? Because I would have sworn it was less than that. So
he scored 1 goal, and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. It didn't. Yeah, not much. So Andy, who disappointed you this season?
Mine's, I guess, in terms of positionally, it's kind of similar to Nwaneri. To be honest, just before I go on to that, I don't necessarily know if I've ever been as hot on Nwaneri as most of the fan base is. He's came in and scored some good goals, but I've not seen it in the same way that I have seen it from Miles, especially over the last kind of few months. I've not really seen it. And Max Dowman, like you say, Jamie, was kind of come in and you immediately see his class, his quality, his confidence on the ball, and the way all the other kind of players seem to trust him with the ball. I've never quite. It's not that he's a supremely talented player. I've just never quite. He's never quite passed the eye test for me yet, and I think. I don't know. I think this will be. I think he'll move on in the summer. I don't necessarily think Arteta trusts him, and I think. So my kind of coming on to it eventually, my disappointment of the season is Noni Madueke. I think he's not he's came in for a massive fee. He started. I remember that first game he came on was it Forest, when I think Bukayo Saka went off injured, and he was absolutely electric. And I think again there was kind of stuff flying around group chats of like, oh, maybe this is what Saka should be doing. Like, he's beating his man on the outside. He's absolutely. He's got his kind of left back on toast, and he's got all of those raw abilities. He's electric. Like he's got, like, he can come in, he can absolutely ping a shot on his left foot, but he just massively flatters to deceive me this season. And I think it just bringing it back to that Nwaneri point, I would have rather just kept Nwaneri in the squad and not signed Madueke. I mean, he's kind of. He kind of looks good in moments, and then he'll go and do something really, really good. And then you're like, right, go and build on it. That goal away at Bruges, the goal against Bayern Munich at home, you're like, go and build on that. And like, we see things coming out about he's doing all the personal like training outside of the club training, and it's like, right, that he's clearly got the right attitude. and you just want them to put it all together. And I just felt a sense, certainly as the season built on, I felt a sense of frustration, and then that kind of frustration has kind of quickly turned to disappointment for me. I don't think that money has been like well allocated. And to be honest, I wouldn't say no to moving on in the summer from Madueke. I think for someone who was to come in and play that understudy to Saka, I don't necessarily know if he's really grabbed it for me. I don't know if in the games where he should have shone brightly, he's really done that. And I would have rather given those minutes to Nwaneri, to be honest. And moving forward, I would give him to Dauman almost every time now.
It's a tough one because I had him down there as a potential candidate. He's played 43 matches, started 27. He's scored 8, assisted 3, so he's on 0.32 goals per 90. So one every three-ish games. It depends what his job is. And so, for instance, Leeds. Saka goes off in the warm up. He comes on. He gets a goal and an assist. But I think it's the inconsistency there. And you see him; he's one for running the ball out of play a lot, and he can frustrate. But then he came on Champions League. I think he did a really good job and was a threat, and should have won a penalty with his direct running. So it's a tough one. And what we pay for him, 45 million, 50 million, it's roughly what you pay for. He's above mediocre, but is what you pay for that type of winger with potential. The thing is, he's 23. Can we coach him into being better, or is he always going to be like this? And has he still got the potential? I think at 23, we've still got the potential to do that. His job was to understudy Saka, and he did that. He's part of a Champions League Champions winning team and all the rest of it. So. But I can see that you just want more. So I think this point you expect more consistency in that,
because he's got all the fundamentals. He's got the pace. He's got the shot. He's got
you just want him more often rather than a bit hot and cold sort of thing.
And then he gives you moments like I was saying against Bruges where he absolutely and then he gets the header at Bournemouth, crucial goal. But you're like, I just want more of it. Like.
Brentford. The header against Brentford. Yeah. So but it's an easy one to say, and I understand it. But for me, I had a couple. I even had Odegaard down. He's really important to our team, but he's just it's weird. He's gone from player of the season 2 seasons running, and now because of injuries, his end product has just disappeared. He's not assisting and he's not scoring. Okay, he scored the 1 goal against Brighton. What else, has he scored anything else this year? I'm just trying to think. Odegaard. Only 1 goal, and that was against Brighton. 7 assists. That's more than I expected. But but he isn't the one for me. It's just a very simple one. Kepa, just for the Carabao Cup final. You got a chance, you come in, and you make a basic mistake, then that's going to disappoint me. Now, whether we go on to win it or not, I don't know, because we were playing shite anyway. But he's for me is my disappointment with the season. And look, with a 5 million release clause, he's good enough for other teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not with us next year. Okay, so Andy, who surprised you the most this season?
For me, Martin Zubimendi, and probably more because I didn't quite know the player we were getting. I kind of almost expected we were getting that number 6 metronome, almost like the Rodri style. Because there was those quotes coming out from Rodri where he was like, "I'm passing the keys of the Spanish national team over to Zubimendi," and I quite naively thought, "Oh, we're getting quite a similar player." And then I think after a couple of weeks, when you see him bombing up, he's kind of more of a pure 8, kind of a double pivot 8, and I think. So there was kind of the positional surprise, but then that first 3-4 months that he came in, he was. I remember that performance against Aston Villa, and he kind of turns up just after half time and slots that goal. It's an incredibly important goal for our season, and I just didn't see that coming from that kind of player. That level of like almost like a duck to water coming to the Premier League, so calm, so collected. And I guess almost on the flip side of that, the surprise is like how it almost seemed to kind of fall away once he lost his legs and he lost his physicality. I'm incredibly confident he'll come back next season. Hopefully hopefully gets a bit of a rest after the World Cup, and he's able to now kind of understand what the physical demands of the Premier League are. He's obviously played most of the teams now, apart from the ones who'll be have been promoted. We might use him in a slightly different way. Might give him, now that we know his potential physical limitations, we might give him a bit more of a break at the start of next season. But yeah, I think, and to be honest, I find it difficult at this time of year not to discuss transfers, but that's when there's been these links to Tonali, I just don't get it, because to me they're very, very similar players, and I just don't quite get the. It just puzzles me, because I think
it feels like agent talk to me.
Squad depth. Maybe
I think that feels like agent talk to me. But I'd 100% agree, by the way, Andy. I actually had literally, so I've got a couple of options here. I've got one to fall back on, but I've got Zubi because he offers so much more going forward and is much less metronomic than his time at Real Sociedad. I had exactly the same thing. Just from the same perspective, I expected this guy to come in, and everything data-wise that I was reading was saying this guy is neat and tidy and goes sideways brilliantly and is not a progressive player.
Yeah,
and I think that's what has been surprising. And as I mentioned earlier with Declan Rice, I think it's made him more dynamic as well as a result. And I think those two being more of a traditional stay and go is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 6 goals, some bangers, important ones against Villa. He had 3 assists. He played the most amount of matches, so he's played 57 matches, 48 starts. I think only Declan Rice had 49 starts, but he played 55 matches. He had 4,292 minutes, so he played the third amount of minutes in our team. And he's come from Spain, so it's a walk in the park, and you get a break during the winter. So, and he plays a different role. So I'm not surprised he fatigued out. Mm-hmm. And he's still got those numbers, and he was hardly playing the last 5 games of the season, sort of thing. So, and there's a lot of recency bias about him and stuff like that. So, okay, MLS done brilliantly in there, and it was just hard for him to get that rhythm back. But I think, even coming out of sub, I think he played a role. So, I think all our players again next season will all be important because they'll all be injured, and we'll all need everyone in there, and he can offer something in there in the double pivot. It'll be what I'm waiting to see is, in terms of our midfield, what do we do when we don't have Declan Rice? How does that midfield look, and how does that form? And we can worry about that later, but that's maybe, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because that's maybe where Tonali comes in, because I see maybe Tonali, just from a stature perspective, physically, he's more akin to what Declan Rice is around the park versus a Zubimendi or an MLS, who are a bit more lightweight and in that regard. But I don't know. I haven't studied it enough. But so, Jamie, who was your surprise of the season?
I'll take Declan Rice's successor at West Ham instead. By the way, anyway,
well, Hernandez, yes,
yeah. So, is it Hernandez, not Fernandez?
No, it's Fernandez. For some reason, I've got it in my head as Hernandez.
I was going to say, am I going to have to put a spelling error for something that's coming up later on in one of the categories?
Yeah.
So, as I say, Zubi was my number 1 for this. I'll go to my number 2 because I think it's just worth saying. I think it's just MLS for literally the last 5 games. There weren't very many surprises for me this season in terms of the playing stuff. And that was, I think the way that MLS's season went was surprising overall, right? I expected him to be a bit more involved. I expected him maybe to move around positionally a little bit. And I think, him going absolutely missing for such a long time, causing the Reddits and the Twitters and the X's and all that to all go absolutely crazy, and, beat Mikel around the head for a little bit during times when people are upset about something completely different. And then, ultimately the way that his season ended, for him to have this triumphant sort of feel-good moment to occur at the end of the season where he's a really key player in 3 league games and then starts the Champions League final and he's so, absolutely trusted and takes the place of Zubimendi, this guy who's had a really good set of games for the club in his first season. I thought was really, I just didn't see it coming towards the end of the season at all. I'd sort of written it off and gone, you know what, it's a little bit more of a regression than I thought it was going to be. He's probably going to have a loan next year. I don't fear for him long term at the club. I think it's going to be all right. But to see that end of season occur, and then some of the stories that came out around that, kind of Ian Wright talked about it a lot. MLS has since talked about it, about him starting to train in midfield and, doing his homework and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. that was great. And I liked that it kind of all happened in the wraps a little bit. And then when it happened, it was a really nice little boost, I think, for fans and the team. You know, the team needed somebody to bring a bit of energy, and he very much had it. And the fans, I think, needed that little bit of a boost at that particular point in time as well, when we were very tetchy, very nervous. You know, we're eking out wins, and it's nice to at least have that thing you can latch onto and go, oh, isn't it great that MLS is in? That's you know, didn't he have a really good performance? You know, so yeah, that's my really pleasant surprise of the season within it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
no,
he brought an energy, but he
good
also
shout.
brought like an incredible technical level when he came in. Like there's some of those passes he was playing in the Champions League final. Like we don't have very many vertical passers for the reason that I was wanting us to go down the line of somebody like Adam Wharton, so somebody can just punch the ball through the lines because we struggle. And some of the passes he's been playing since he came into the team, I've been like, well, no, I don't want to forget Adam Wharton, but he's seriously surprised me in the passing level. But well, he's always been good at his ball carrying. Um, but that it was like a total antidote to what we needed at that kind of point of the season. We needed somebody to get on the ball with confidence, with energy, with someone who maybe hadn't came bogged down in that kind of January to March period. He came in and he just brought a freshness to that midfield that it just kind of gave everyone. I just always go back to that Fulham game, and we'd been struggling at Man City. We then played out one of those turgid 1-0 wins against Newcastle. And I always remember like 10, 15 minutes in texting you, Tabs, and I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, it was almost like a complete unlock of a football team overnight. And I think a lot of that was down to Miles Lewis-Skelly.
I thought he was
no,
excellent, and he always had those abilities when he was playing in the 18s and 21s. And it's actually funny enough, one of the things that one of my abiding memories of Wanyeri that makes me excited for Wanyeri, and why I was disappointed by Wanyeri and I'm sort of convinced by him, is I just keep thinking back to the balls that MLS would play and Wanyeri going inside of a fullback all the time, and he always had that incisiveness. So getting the chance to do that in the first team was great, absolutely great. And yeah, fully agree that Fulham game was just a joy, wasn't it?
No, that's a really good shout. And I went with Mosquera, so I've talked about him, so no need to talk about him more. Okay, so Andy, what do you think was the injury that had the biggest impact on our season?
I think it's probably a recency bias thing, but I think it probably, for what happened last Saturday, I think for me, Jurriën Timber, I think we were probably...
It's not that recent, pre-Carabao Cup final.
No, I know, but I'm thinking more against PSG because I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think. Well, we maybe don't play like that if Timber's in the squad, and maybe I don't know. Who knows? We might have given away.
There's a very direct moment, isn't there, as well? Let's face it. Like there's the sliding doors moment of Mosquera is he's actually Timber, right? Yeah,
exactly. And I guess you could maybe even throw Ben White in there because I don't necessarily know if Ben White does that if he doesn't get injured against West Ham, but. Yeah, I think for the level that Timber was playing at up until he kind of began to like slight concerns around that Wolves away game. He seemed to really be kind of on his last legs, and that does come back to how we use the squad appropriately next season. I'm hoping to we had to go over the line this season, and I think that led to certain decisions around certain players playing in a hell of a lot of games. Maybe now that pressure's slightly gone for next season, I'm hoping we're allowed to be a bit more mix and match certainly at the start of the season, start of next season. But yeah, I think we got over the line eventually relatively comfortably in the league. We won it by 7 points. But I think had Timber not been injured, I think we'd have wrapped it up earlier, and we would have probably done something far more special in the Champions League. Not that it was Mosquera's fault, but I just
no. But
that starting lineup, I think we might.
And I also think Carabao Cup final, him not being there makes a massive difference because of we can't get out. It's just a different. It was something about that Carabao Cup final that was weird, but him not being there, just added to that. So Jamie, any injury that you think made the
that was on my list for sure.
Okay.
But I think Marino for me. I thought Marino was a really big one from January because I think that has, and I wanted to talk about it like twice earlier on in the pod. It's one of those where it links together. No, but I think just the very last category, in fact, with Zubi and the drop off. Well, a lot of it is that Marino isn't there to be able to. There was a point in time where Marino early on in the season has to play centre forward because we didn't have Jock and we didn't have Kai, and there's a point obviously from January onwards. That's a huge amount of time that Marino's been missing for. He's not there to be able to take those minutes off of Declan Rice and Zubimendi. It's one of the reasons why Zubimendi ended up playing, so many 90-minute performances, I think, is that appropriate player to step in, which in the end ends up being MLS. But that appropriate player that you would have expected is Mikel Merino, and he's not there. And I think, and especially with that versatility as well, the fact that he can go into that centre forward, and with that particular job that he does, that dual-winning job, and he's not a player. You can't go, Christian Norgard, you're going to come in and have those moments that Mikel Merino is going to have, because Christian Norgard can't do the things that Mikel Merino does. He doesn't have quite that same profile. He doesn't have quite the overlap that you might have with the profiles that are already in the first team. Norgard's job is to come in and be in the games where we're not in control of the ball all the time. Merino has a similar role, but in a very, very different way, and plays in a different position. So it's for me, that was a really big one. I felt there was a lot of times throughout the season where I looked at a team and I thought, I could really do with Mikel Merino in there right now. And I looked at a game state where all sorts, like so many times throughout the season, where I felt I'd fucking love a Mikel Merino right now. And actually, Carabao Cup's one of them as well.
Yeah,
when we were struggling for an outball, how much did you want Mikel Merino in that Carabao Cup final to be able to just go, I'm going to get fucking stuck into some of these City boys? Like,
Brighton away.
Brighton away. There's so many matches, I think, where
I would have had him in the Champions League starting 11. I
probably would have if he'd have been fit. Yeah. So I honestly think that for me, that is the biggest. I do not think it's. I laughed at you last season when you called him Player of the Season. I still think that was a bit of a joke, but I think he is
the reason we came second.
But I think he is the most 12th man footballer in the Premier League. I think he is. He is the sixth guy in the NBA. Right? He's that guy that you win championships based off. He's Tony Kukoc for the Chicago Bulls in 1995.
In the NBA, there's a specific award every year for the sixth man.
Exactly.
It's nuts. Yeah,
it's a really, really big deal. And Mikel Merino is that for us. He's the guy that you have to. There are things that he does that nobody else in our squad is that great at. And there are also things that he lacks versus other players. Sure, and he's not the greatest footballer of all time, but he is very important, I think. Or he's proved himself very important to us at really key moments over the last couple of years. And I think that not being there this season, you talk about somebody who could have won the title for us sooner. I think of an available Mikel Merino as a really big. I think you win a few more points. I genuinely think you win a few more points.
Yeah, there's a player that's Tabs. There's a player that's come into mind immediately as you were explaining that, and I think every good team has one of these. Mikel Merino, and I was just thinking Jason Park. Jason Park when he came in for that Man United team, and he ran his legs off. Merino's slightly different player, but you still need one of those players to come in, fulfill.
But he suited Man United's style. Yeah, that was who they were at the time.
Comes in, plays a lot of different roles, completely trusted by the manager, completely a leader in the dressing room, completely trusted by his teammates, trusted by the fan base to come in and I wouldn't in the biggest games I wouldn't start him in midfield, but he would do a job in midfield, does a job up top. He'd probably do a job at left back. Do you know what I mean? I think he's such an.
I think he has. We've seen him do a job at left back. I'm fairly sure, haven't we? Haven't we seen him for at least for 20 minutes or so?
He scored either the first or second goal in the Champions League semi-final at the Emirates. Yeah, as well. So before your time, Andy.
Oh, you mean Jason Park?
I thought you meant Mikel Merino. So.
Yeah.
No, Jason Park.
What was Mikel Merino doing before Andy's time?
Well, I looked at this differently. So I think the Havertz injury had the biggest impact on our season, but not because we missed him and Gyökeres, blah, blah, blah. But there was that. Because he didn't get injured, we do not sign Eze. I don't think. Because I think that forced the issue, I think, in terms of signing Eze. So I think from an injury that had a positive impact, even though if he'd have been playing, blah, blah, all the rest of it. But from a positive perspective, if Havertz doesn't get injured in the first game of the season, I don't think we sign Eze. I'm pretty sort of certain of that. Okay. Right. Next one. Quick one. Goal of the season. Andy, what's your goal of the season?
Well, how are you defining it? How you say it's quick, but there's because it isn't.
Okay, if you want to, what was your favourite goal of the season versus what do you think was the best goal of the season?
Uh,
If they're one in the same thing, then great.
they're not. I think favourite goal, Trossard away at Sunderland. That I know we ended up then on 2 each, but in the away end, just that was one of my favourite.
Oh, you were there, yeah.
seasons,
So being there makes a difference. Okay, yeah, yeah,
just
okay.
brilliant. Like absolutely loved it. And I think technically, it's probably Eze at home to Bayer Leverkusen in the last 16, last 32, the champion, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I think that the way the build-up play is incredibly underrated between Trossard and Rice, but then the way Eze just hits that, you don't see footballs hit better than that. So I think that's my technically, but in terms of a technical goal, technical finish, it's Eze. But my favourite would be Trossard away at Sunderland.
okay, well, that's 2 taken off my list. That's fine. So I've got a big list there. Jamie, goal of the season, favourite goal of the season. If they're one and the same thing, great. If not, don't worry about it.
That's quite fun actually. So I was going to go goal of the season. I had Eze versus Leverkusen as my top one, and then I had Zubi versus Forest as my number 2. So I'll put forward Zubi versus Forest.
Yeah, tick.
But favourite is an interesting one because that does give me the opportunity to go. Who does not love to see a stampede of players following Max Dowman up the pitch against Everton? And all 3 of those I was in the stadium for. As you know, so that's in a season where it's been the most games that I've missed in the last 5 or 6 years. It's lovely that all 3 of those I was there to see. So they've all got a place in my heart.
Yeah, I had both those goals down here. Okay, then I'll pick out. Is it honourable mentions to Madueke and Nelly against Bruges away, 2 bangers. Eze against Newcastle at home, the short corner routine. I'm going to go Gyökeres versus Spurs away, the second goal straight after half time. Great ball by Timber and great movement by Eze, which opens up the space, and he twats it first time. Away from home. Gives us the lead against Tottenham. A great shot, great instinctive, shot from him. So I'm going to take Gyökeres away for Spurs, and then all the others I agree and concur. Okay, at the other end, save of the season. Jamie, what was Raya's save of the season? I've got 4 here, so.
I'm not going to go with the first one. I'll go with that because I'm sure somebody will have that one.
We'll go for it.
I'm going with Calafiori's Scorpion block versus Everton. I think.
Well, you're not even going for Ray. I've got
no. I just thought. Okay. I thought. Look, if I'm going first, I need to get it out there in case somebody doesn't say it because that needs to be right up there for me.
No one was saying that. You could have gone. I could have got everyone involved in this pod, and no one was saying.
No, I mean I need to get it out there because somebody needs to say it. Was more the point. Okay, I need somebody to say it. What do you two all say, Fernandez? Like, it's fine.
No,
I've already mentioned it once, basically.
Yeah. Go on. Okay, Calafiori's great. And okay, I may come back to a proper one at the end. Go on then. Andy, what was Raya's save of the season?
I did a bit of space. Brighton. So I was standing right behind it, Brighton at home. I think we were 2-1 at the time. I can't remember who hits the shot, goes to bend it. It's going to take it to 2 each right at the Christmas period. If we'd have been 2-0 up, drawn 2 each, if he doesn't save that, it could be...
Minter came on as sub.
Yeah.
Was it 1-0? Was it 2-1 or 1-0? Did it was
2-1. It was 2-1 at that point, and then he saved that goal to stop it going 2 each. I was standing right behind it. I was like, it didn't look like much of a shot. It looked like a good save. It didn't look like much of a shot, but then when I seen it on the replays after the game, I was like, wowie, what a save. So yeah, that's for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a couple of mentions for Raya versus McGinn. Even though we were 4-0 up against, it was like point blank. It looked good from a distance. I think when you look at it close up, McGinn hits it straight at him, right place, but it looked good from a distance. And I'm toying between 2. Raya's save off the line against Richarlison against Spurs. I think we were 2-1 up or 3-1 up at the time. And had they come back into it, could have made it a bit dodgy, a bit teetering. It was the one that went through the legs and you had to reach back and claw it off the line. That could have changed the way that game went. I think it would have made it 3-2, and you could imagine the momentum Spurs would have got, and it would have been horrible. The most consequential save of the season has to be Fernandez, West Ham away. And it's part miss, part save, but he makes himself big. He doesn't go down. Just so important. It was like everyone's life just slowed down. And that was the league there and then. And again, this is the impact that Reyes had on the league. It was like, it may not have been the best, but it was definitely the most important save of the
Can I
save
change
of the season.
Can I change mine?
Go
I
on then.
completely forgot about that, so I'm going to go with that one as well.
Okay. No. But
it's the real one. Let's face it. It was just such a moment.
I completely
I
forgot about it. I don't know how. Maybe it's just my mind blocking out that stressful 15 minutes. But I was like,
Minter, I think, was the most spectacular. I think it was because it was reaching, and he actually did a couple of those. I think there was a header against Brentford at 0-0 off Sade from close range that he tips over. There's like bang, and he did one similar, either Atletico Madrid or Bayern Munich.
Was a big one.
Yeah, again at 0-0. So he's pulled out these saves.
United started the season as well, didn't he? He had a huge stop against United at the start of the season.
I can't remember that, but it's just loads of them. But there is only one answer, and that's Fernandes, West Ham away. Okay, Jamie, what was your favourite most enjoyable game of the season, or favourite game of the season for whatever reason?
Bears home. It's fucking great. Hey, yeah, done.
As a hat trick. There we go. Yeah, what's not to like?
I mean, when you get that song in particular, I think we just sung that song basically for like 24 hours.
I was in the passport here in Stansted Airport singing it. I was screaming it at the passport.
I loved it. It was my favourite. It was the most brilliant bit actually of on the parade, to go back to it, as they came round the bend at Clissold Park. It was Riccardo Calafiori on the mic at the time singing it, and he just had got to "fuck off Tottenham, I'm a gooner now" in his Italian accent, and it was fantastic. Brilliant.
And at Palace, you can see Gyökeres screaming that into the microphone and all of it. I loved it. Okay, Andy, favourite game of the season?
I think I've already said it. I have two very close. So Sunderland away was probably the one that it immediately goes. Even though we drew it, I absolutely loved that game. But in terms of both enjoyment and importance and confidence builder, Fulham at home, done by half time. I think at that point I felt as if we'd maybe turned a corner from seeing how nervous we were against Bournemouth a couple of weeks back, and the dejection of walking away from the stadium of thinking we were going to do it again, in terms of the wheels were going to fall off and we were going to prove everyone, well, quote unquote, right about bottling it. I think for us to come out with a refreshed team and go 3-0 up at half time and then cruise the second half, I think that was and then I think it definitely helps when you're at the game as well. So
of course.
Yeah,
and we'll touch on that a bit later. Yeah, I had Spurs home and away, Villa home 4-1, Inter Milan away 3-1 there, Atletico Madrid at home 4-0, but that was a 20-minute spell where we just blasted off the bar. I'm going to go Munich at home, where we.
Mate, I was literally just thinking, is nobody going to say Munich? I was hoping somebody had that.
That was it. 3-1 at home. At that point, we were the best team in the world, and it was without a doubt. We were at that point in time, and we were untouchable at that point in time, and you could see something happen. Unfortunately, certain circumstances with injuries and whatever, it tailed off a bit, and we made it harder. But that moment in time, spanking Bayern Munich, and this was and it was just a high quality game of football, very technical. Both teams were really good, and we were just a superb team there, and there was a lot of a lot of well deserved praise, and that was a real sort of we're here and we're not going away, and look how fucking good we are to the rest of the Europe. And I think a lot of people saw that as started to gulp. So that would be for me the favourite game of the season, just for multiple reasons. How good a game it was. We beat Munich at home 3-1. Harry Kane was unhappy, and we were pretty good. So going with that. Okay, conversely, what was your most stressful game of the season, Andy?
West Ham away. That was horrible. That last, what will turn out to be probably one of the most defining games in a long time. I don't know how I completely forgot about that save, but there's the save, there's the VAR moment, there's the Trossard goal, there's the Odegaard having a shit season but coming on and giving us 15 minutes from absolute heaven. I just hated. I remember just after we won that game, there was like tears coming from my eyes. I was like, I cannot do that again. Like
so exhausted.
Yeah. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience. Like, I think for someone to have no context, and for someone to look at how I was behaving in that living room over there over a TV screen, and people who have no idea who the hell you are, and to be my heart rate must have been at about 160. There was tears coming out my eyes. I had like a full head of hair before that. I was just it's West Ham and it's not even close. Well, slightly the last half an hour of the game last Saturday against PSG, but in terms of the full game, West Ham.
Yeah. See, I can't relate to that because I was there and the West Ham end. I had to take all the emotion out of it. So when you're watching a game with zero emotion, it makes it a bit easier. Even though like I was banging my head, like when Fernandes going through. But so I couldn't have those emotions. I couldn't allow myself to have those emotions because then I'd get the shit beaten out of me. So it's weird, and it's happened a couple of times where if you do take the emotion out of the game, you see it very, very differently, sort of thing. So, Jamie, what was your most stressful game of the season?
I can't not do that. It's the only one I had, and it's without debate. Yeah, it was absolutely fucking horrible, and I do not wish to ever. I mean, I have experienced that before, in fairness, but like it just, no, horrible.
Well, for me, it was Newcastle at home. It's the most nervous I've ever been in a stadium. Russell next to me, I mean, he hates me anyway, but he must have hated me even more because because when I watch it at home, I'm like this. I'm pacing around and I'm tense. I have to go leave the room. I can't watch, and I was excruciating watching that game and that Wissa chance. And we just about scraped over the line playing mediocre football. We scored that one good goal. Yeah, it was 45% possession to their 55, 0.49 xG to their 1, 11 shots to their 13. They had 415 accurate passes to our 323 or whatever. It was just horrible, horrible, horrible that second half, and it was sort of like, the worst I felt in the stadium. I just could not control the anxiety. Burnley towards the end was last game of the season at home, was also getting up there because we just couldn't get that second, and you're just worried about James Ward-Prowse coming on and scoring some stupid free kick. But and then Bournemouth versus Man City. There you go. It was also quite stressful watching that. But there you go. What was your in a similar vein, Jamie? What was your biggest gut punch of the season?
Do you know, I couldn't really come up with something for this. I was really thinking about it for a bit this afternoon. I was like, okay. I don't know. I haven't got that abiding memory, and maybe that's mainly it. I can tell you what it was, a couple of seasons ago, quite easily, right? I can tell you those moments that winded me and that probably, kicked the crap out of me, or where it felt unfair, and this season, actually, I think, no, the only one I can really come to is PSG, because it's the last big one in my head, and I think certainly, Mascara, who's been, for it to be the boy who's been so impressive for a lot of the season, who's been chucked in there, who had a really good first half, and I think this is probably the main reason I want to say this one is just to make the point of going. He was fucking great as well.
Yeah.
For just like 45, 50 minutes. To make one little mistake like that and for him then to be in that position when undoubtedly he was going to be replaced within 10 minutes anyway, I think that stuff was always happening, was a real, it's less of a gut punch, more of a sucker punch, I don't know, but it's a horrible one.
Well, I looked at it and I never, and the Champions League final, even Gabriel missing or Eze, they weren't gut punches. It was just sad. It was just, it just felt, it was more of a deflation, a balloon deflation, or just I was like, oh, can we not have another go? Yeah, that it was like it was just more sad rather than a like real punch in the stomach.
I don't have any of those under the belt. Okay. What is it that's really hurt me this season? Moments left in my head, and I think that might be that all the joy of 2 weeks of party just erased it all, and it's like, fuck it, it's fine.
Yeah, Andy, do you have anything to remind Jamie?
I do indeed. I do. Alex Scott's goal that put Bournemouth 2-1 up at the Emirates in was it March, April time? Because again, it was just that building, as that narrative was building that the wheels were going to come off, we were going to do it, and we were going to prove everyone in the media right. And then we put in an absolutely honking performance. We managed to get a penalty. Gyökeres slotted it away. We went in half time, 1-1. Let's go on. Let's kick on. 2-1, 3-1. Let's win the game. Just get up the road. But Bournemouth, they're a very good side. They put in a really good performance. And then just as again, opposite side of the stadium, directly behind it, just seen Alex Scott you could see the whole goal to the left. And you seen Alex Scott just coming onto the ball. And I was like, oh no. And I remember just seeing the goal. You then got the away fans directly in your eye line. You see them going absolutely nuts for a game that doesn't fucking matter to Bournemouth, by the way. I was just absolutely...
Well, it almost did, because they could have got Champions League. You know, it was part of maybe getting Champions League, you know.
But I just remember being absolutely gutted walking out of that stadium, and then you did your 3 words review tabs, and I just remember writing in, I was like, every fucking season, and I just walked out up and down, got myself some fried chicken, and I was just absolutely gutted.
And felt even worse. Okay, well, I'm sorry, the correct answer is Wolves away. I can't believe you didn't remember that, Jamie. So, being 2-0 up, we win that, we go 10 points clear, whatever stupid stuff like that, and to give away a 2-goal lead against the worst team in the league in the very last second to some 5-year-old that comes on that's never played football before, and David Rare, player of the season, does what he occasionally does once in a blue moon, comes for a ball, doesn't get it, and they get the equaliser. I just remember I screamed at the TV, "What the fuck are you doing?" Threw my notepad at the floor, and just sort of really just it was the most visceral, not quite as bad. It was worse at Villa away as well, with that shenanigans in the last second, but that fairly bad, but wasn't as bad. For me, Wolves away. Yeah, you cannot be giving away a 2-goal lead away at Wolves.
I think I think because me and Moz were down at that game, and I just got the sense that it was coming. Like, we went 2-0 up, and the rain was horizontal. It was 1 degree. You could see timber just dying. Gyökeres came on, Eze came on and didn't touch the ball, and it just felt like, certainly in the stadium, it just felt like it was coming. So although I was gutted by it and I was annoyed, it didn't feel like as much of a gut punch for me. But maybe that's different watching it at home.
But again, your experience, I feel, if I'm watching it, if I'm in the stadium, apart from Newcastle, I feel more in control of my emotions, sort of thing. Whereas at home, you're a bit removed and you just sit and just that was that one.
I know we haven't asked this question, Tabs, but see, angriest moment.
Go on there. What's your angriest moment?
Angriest moment was Wolves away, hearing those little fucking idiots singing Second Again, Ole Ole, as we had to walk back to the car. I was livid.
Raging. Okay, right, on to the final question. I'm going to miss out one of the questions. Jamie, what was your favourite moment of the season?
Have you not fucking done the Arsenal-esque moment of the season?
Oh, go on then. If you want to do it, let's do it then. What's your most
it's just because I've just worked it out, you bastard. I couldn't get it this afternoon.
Okay, go for it. Go on then. What was your... well, I've got a good one as well.
My most Arsenal-esque moment of the afternoon is tied into the favourite moment of the season, so I'll put the two of them together for you, and therefore it's done, right? So my favourite moment of the season was the moment it was won. I'm sorry, it was. So it was the end of the Bournemouth versus City game, but it was that whole evening. It was the sharing of photos, of videos. It was the players. It was the way that everything just compounded over and over and over in a sea, I suppose. And any time that Arsenal have won the title in my lifetime, I've not been at the game we've won it at. I've been to games after we've won 2 different titles previously, but not at the actual game itself. The same happened here, obviously, because we won it away. But the difference this time is obviously the social media sharing aspect of it, and therefore feeling connected and all these things going on. And seeing all the guys get together in London, especially a lot of our mates, was just absolutely brilliant. But the most Arsenal-esque moment of it, and it's like a modern Arsenal, it's like this Arsenal, was the fact that within minutes, it seems, the Champions range, including these shirts, were online and we were all ordering them, and that was just fucking hilarious. Was
It's
just
so
like
Arsenal, yeah. The merch
it was,
drop,
yeah, absolutely.
literally.
It's these last few years, our commercial team have got so fucking good, haven't they? And they just swooped in within seconds of Bournemouth City and went, guys, please come and spend some money at the Armory. We've been waiting for this. Get yourselves checked out. I think there was somebody in the office going like, guys, can we put an all-nighter? Can we get the guys in the actual arm? There's like the thousands of people outside. Come on, we could be selling shirts here. Come on, get them in.
I love that. I love that as the most Arsenal-esque moment of the season. You're spot
See,
on.
that was worth it. There you go.
It was very much worth it.
It.
Go on, Andy. I'll let you all say. Do you have an most Arsenal-esque moment of the season?
Not quite as good as that one. That was fantastic. That really tickled me. But probably more on the football side, I think. I was trying to think of this sort of like what summed up Arsenal's season more than anything. And it was a turgid game where we went 1-0 up, then conceded, and then scored in like the last minute with an own goal. And it was that Wolves home game where we beat
Yeah.
the stress involved in that to beat who at that point were going to be the worst Premier League team ever. Like they were going to eclipse Derby's record, and then just for that, 89th minute goal to go in from them, and then to go up and score an own goal and win it 2-1. I think that was for me favourite moment of the season. I know what yours is going to be, Tab, so I'll leave you to it. I think mine probably is that one, but I think.
Well, go on. You say because your view of it is different to mine. So
no.
I've got a whole different story about it. So go on.
No, I think my favourite moment of the season was it was Trossard's goal against West Ham, because that's the moment that it felt like, although we didn't win it then, I think Arsenal won it then. Although Man City then dropped points, I think we won the league in that, because if we would have went and dropped, if we would have drawn 0-0, I don't know if we would have got over the line. It would have given City a renewed lease of life, renewed confidence. Who knows what would have happened? I think, although, yeah, we didn't play in the Bournemouth Man City game, obviously, but I think in terms of winning the league, it wasn't Burnley at home for me. It was West Ham away. Okay. So, and just that goal, the scenes in the crowd, Saliba jumping around, it was just special.
Yeah. My most Arsenal-esque moment of the season, so it was more of a match, and it was the first game of the season, okay, against Man United. So we win from a set-piece corner kick. You know, we found a way to win 1-0 whilst not playing brilliantly. We had a big injury to Kai, so that whole game encapsulated what we were going to experience for the next 9 months in the league. So I think that was the most Arsenal-esque moment of the season. Look, my favourite moment of the season is Newcastle away, the Gabriel winner that I was fortunate enough to share with yourself and Moz. But it was just the whole build up to it. So I'd run a Ealing half marathon in the morning, and I had to then, finishing that, run to go and get the train to get up to Newcastle. There were delays on the train, and it was a real pain. So we were watching the game on the train. Didn't turn up in Newcastle until halfway through the second half. You know, some of the people, some people just got off and then went back on the next train home. There's no guarantees when you turn up that late to a game that there's any entry into the ground. And I sprinted to the stadium. I still had my running shoes on. Sprinted up the stadium, and luckily there was a few of us, 3-4, that was still wanting to get in, and the stewards were nice enough to let us in. And we got the lift. We got the lift up, and the first two people I see as I'm walking into the away end were Moz and Andy said, "Come and join us." And then it was like brilliant football from Arsenal for the last 20 minutes, trying to get the equaliser, trying to win the game. So Marino scores a great header in his own right, to get it, and it's sort of like, and then Gabriel from a corner gets it in the 96th minute, and the limbs were brilliant, and it just felt like that was the start of our season. That was really that really kick-started our season. So that was that whole thing, just being able to be there for that, the whole journey, the whole day, and then train back was easy, but that just being there for that 20 minutes, it was worth it, and it was great fun to be there. I think other honourable mentions are the Dalman goal. If you were there at Everton, that was just stupendous, just being there for that. The crowd reaction at Fulham at half time, like someone mentioned before, that never seen anything like that before. The standing ovation, just that noise and all the rest of it. And then I don't know what it was like for you, Andy, but the Havertz goal in the Champions League final, Now, the limbs in Newcastle were good. I've never experienced. Their lives were in danger. There were bodies flying everywhere. It was just never, ever experienced anything like that. And if I let myself go fully, I would have been on the pitch, because the amount of body movement and everything. But that was just to score that early and everything. And the good thing is you can't take that away. So we really enjoyed that one moment, and no one will ever take that away from us. Right? We didn't get the result. But you'll refer to it. I'm going to refer to it. Moz refers to it. Yeah, that moment. I don't know what it was like where you were sitting.
It's the most I've ever celebrated a goal, hands down. It was just an insane release of emotion, and it's that kind of all or nothing thing that comes with finals. It was either the best day of our lives, or it's not another game. You still a good game, but had we just go over the line in that game, that would have went. It was biblical, like that.
We'd still all be in Budapest.
Oh mate, they're peeling me off the wall, honestly, because they basically had to peel me off the Puskas Arena stadium, the wall at the Puskas Arena to get. I think for a full 5 minutes, I was just screaming, and everyone around me was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It was just electric.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have worried so much about a shitty sofa bed. But there we go. Right. Anyway, so bringing it full circle. Right. 2 quick questions, and then we get out of here. Premier League or Champions League next season? Jamie, sorry.
I'm gonna. So, do you know, weirdly, this season I just said Champions League because it was to a certain extent because it was like unprecedented. We never did it before, and yet next season I actually am going to say Premier League, because on the other hand, we have not won back-to-back, titles in my lifetime. We have not done it since Herbert Chapman, right? 33, 34, 35. So that's huge for me. Like, and it's all about that building blocks and momentum, isn't it? But I think certainly it's the thing that Wenger was never able to do. And similarly, the Champions League's the other thing that Wenger was never able to do. And if that's the case, then we can go on to a discussion of where Mikel sits in terms of all-time managers if he manages to do both of those things, because they're the 2 big unanswered questions that Wenger, Graham, neither of those guys were able to do those. So yeah, be interesting.
What an opportunity to do it with a incredibly good squad, a young squad, hopefully a really good transfer window ahead of us, and managerial merry-go-round at every single level.
Exactly. The opportunity should be there, right? Everything else is there. And I mean, in the same way, weirdly, I suppose there's a little bit of a Luis Enrique shaped, can you become the dynasty of Europe, because there's a lack of anybody but the Arsenal that are challenging you necessarily, right? So yeah, be interesting to see. But I think certainly I think that should be the priority.
Andy, which one do you prefer next year?
Yeah, Champions League. I think we will do the Premier League. Almost not quite a canter, but I think we will win the Premier League. But it's just and I would love to beat PSG next season in the Champions League fight. Right the wrongs. I'll be saving every single month. So no matter if we do get to the final next year, I'll be saving every single month so that I can pay whatever it is for a ticket. I don't care. It needs to be the Champions League now. After the pain of walking up to that stadium last Saturday, yeah, I think it has to be the Champions League.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on Champions League, and I've already got my accommodation booked. So there we go. Right. And flights aren't quite released yet. Okay. Right. Andy, what's your one bold prediction for next season?
Yeah, I struggled with this one because I was like, I think we'll not walk the Premier League, but I think we'll win the Premier League. And then I was like, well, what really counts as bold?
Well, I put we'll win it easy.
Win it easy.
So you can say, yeah, we'll win it easy or comfortably.
Yeah, probably along the similar vein. But I mean, after a massive couple of years, obviously we've got the World Cup coming up. I think we're going to have a really slow start. I think.
Yeah. That's the trouble.
I think a lot of players are there'll be the emotional kind of release and inertia. There'll be the physical issues to deal with. And I think we will take a slightly different approach to rotation at the start of next season. And if we were sitting there in November, early December, 5 or 6 points behind, probably Liverpool, I think is going to be our closest challengers next season, just because they got Iraola, and I don't really think that forward line can be kind of. I don't think Isak can. Yeah, he'll come back in and he won't play as badly as he did before he got injured. So yeah, 5 or 6 points behind in November, but then go on to win it by 5 or 6 points.
Okay. Jamie, what's your bold prediction for next season?
My bold Arsenal prediction, I really struggled for similar reasons because I'm like, well, I could say we'll make the Champions League final. I think I just kind of think that anyway. Yeah, we've just done that last season. I can say, my bold Arsenal prediction for 26-27 is that the Arteta out Reddit will finally close. And I don't know how, because I'll tell you now, I've been on there so much the last few weeks because it's like fucking cockroaches with a nuclear bomb. How the hell have they managed to like stay alive when this in this environment, in this fucking like post Arteta winning a league world? But somehow they are still managing to say, have you noticed how all of Arteta's people he wants to sign have signed for the clubs already pretty much because they don't want to play for him because Attacker's dead, innit? Like, you don't know how to manage him. But yeah, anyway, so that's my bold statement is, but I think broader as well, actually, but what that kind of links me onto is more my actual real bold statement is, and a real kind of prediction, if you like, is I think the fan base will be a lot more stable and a lot more calm next season. I think, and I think that will bleed its way into some of the socials as well, because I think now, having had the monkey off the back, then hopefully we can be a little bit less fucking cringy, to be honest. For some of us that are a little bit less cringy at times, just less fucking panicked. But certainly, yeah, I think some of the cringy socials could hopefully wind their way down as well, and just less reaction. And I think that'll be a breath of fresh air and a good thing to experience at the Arsenal, because there's been too many times where I do think sometimes we spoil it for ourselves. We've spoiled a little bit the fact that we've been watching some of the best Arsenal teams for 2 decades, and at times some individuals it feels like they've fucking wasted it. So yeah, my prediction is that people will stop wasting it a little bit.
People choose misery.
Tell us what you really think, Jimmy. Tell us the name.
There are people
you
out
asked us to
there
be bold. It's about as bold as I can be.
Yeah.
I can't be bold about what the team's going to do on the pitch, so I'll be bold about that. There you
go. People just choose misery sometimes, and that's who they are. So it's whether it's Arsenal, it's whether it's anything else. So fuck them. Right, yeah, we're winning the league easy, and we're winning 2 trophies. That's what my bold prediction for 26-27. Right, there you go. That's it. That is the end. We've drawn a line under the 25-26 season as champions, reaching 2 finals as well. Unfortunately, not winning those. And so looking ahead, it's all going to be about transfers and what happens next season. So it's been a blast. It's been stressful. It's been fun. So and thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Andy, for joining me this evening and sharing your thoughts and your awards. Thank you. It
was a pleasure, my friend.
Cheers, guys. Pleasure.
Good. And look, you can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, Insta, TikTok, X, and all the socials at The Grove AFC. Our next pod will be sometime in a week's time, looking at the state of the squad and what we might do over the summer. And as always, if you enjoy what you hear, then please leave a like, a subscribe, comment, etc., on the podcast apps, on Apple, on YouTube, and on Spotify, because it helps with the algo and getting into the ears of less fortunate people than yourselves. So there we go. That's a wrap for, say, 25-26. Thank you for listening. And until the next time, come on you Gunners.